Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to the very first, or episode 0 of ZOMBcast. I am one of your hosts, Nick. Here with me today is my buddy.
Yo, man. It's Kevin. It's Kevin.
Hello, Kevin, and welcome to our introductory ZOMBcast. So we decided the best thing for us would be to have an episode 0, and so this is going to be just the intro to the world of ZOMBcast and kind of what you can expect from us, and really just introing us. And then episode 1, we're going to talk about what was the first zombie movie ever, and investigating, well, what is really, the first zombie movie. All right, so let's just get into it. Let's go into it. Let's say a little bit about ourselves. So why don't you start it off, Kev?
Well, hi, I'm Kevin. I'm 6 foot. Actually, I'm 5'11", but I say I'm 6 foot. No, got a couple kids, which most of you who watch our channel know me and know what I'm about. Really excited about zombies just because I've always had a big interest in zombies. I mean, since I was a wee little laddie, I've been watching, flesh-eating people. There's even zombie movies that I've seen that I cannot remember the name to, and I wish I could because they were really, really good. So I'm excited for this adventure because I feel like this is going to help me find that movie from when I was a kid.
Right.
And I mean, literally, it's like one of my favorite zombie movies of all time. All time.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have alligators. There's alligators.
Alligators?
And it's from like the 80s. And it's like anyways, enough about me. How are you? What are you about?
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Nick. Me and Kevin actually started Threat X3 Productions. So that's the production company that we have for this podcast and many other podcasts. So you might recognize me or maybe even Kevin from a podcast of late. In particular, our biggest one was Apex Legends Hubcast, your central hub for everything Apex. But enough about that. I have 2 daughters, so I'm a double daughter daddy. And
double daughter daddy.
Yep. I also love zombies. ZOMBcast has always been like something that's been building in the back of my mind, something I've always kind of wanted to do.
It's been on the plate for 5 years. It's been on the plate for 5 years. It's something that we've touched on, we've talked about. And I mean, now, with the unfortunate side of COVID, there's some more freedom for me. Over the last 5 years, I've been bogged down with work and this, and it's just been about timing. And lately I've been able to reassess my schedules, and we're able to make this happen after 5 years. Like, we already ate our peas, we ate the mashed potatoes, and we ate the meat. This is the dessert, people. This is the dessert, and I'm ready for it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited to go on this adventure, just to let everybody who's listening know, what is ZOMBcast going to be? Well, for one, it's going to be about zombies, and more zombies.
Wait,
but more specific,
are there going to be zombies?
There's going to be plenty of freaking zombies, okay?
All right, zombies.
But more specifically, we are going to be covering movies, TV, video games, comic books. Anything that has a zombie, we're going to be covering it. So in our episode 0, I think it's very pertinent to discuss what exactly is a zombie, what constitutes a zombie, what counts as a zombie. I feel like that's very important so that you guys listening exactly know, well, why don't you talk about this movie? It's like, well, that's not technically zombies, okay?
It's not a zombie.
So let's start off with you.
Okay.
I have my mouse on you. Let me get my mouse off of you.
Yeah, don't put your mouse on.
So let's start with you. What do you think constitutes a zombie, or what do you think? Like, what's some main things that need to happen in order? Like, this is what actually zombie is.
So when it comes down to it, right, I think that this is going to be a changing opinion. I think on both of our parts through this adventure, I think our opinions are going to change. But as of right now, what constitutes a zombie? Flesh eater, number one.
Okay.
It's got to be a flesh eater. The whole brain concept, I'm not really like, oh, they want brains because they don't have a brain. Like, yeah, okay. But
yeah.
just the aggressiveness of a zombie just to attack and have that primal
animalistic,
that primal instinct, I think is like almost necessary.
Yes.
How it spreads. If it spreads through a bite, a scratch, if you get their blood and your blood mixed and in your body, you turn. I mean, basically any bodily fluid. It's like AIDS. It spreads by any bodily fluid going into your body, right? So I think, I don't think it's any bodily fluid. And if I got that wrong, I apologize to people who have HIV or AIDS. That's not my intention. I'm just trying to show the connection. Well, I got to make people know I don't think there's zombies. I think that deterioration of the body is kind of like a key iconic thing. But I don't think it's necessary. In every zombie aspect, I don't think that body deterioration is necessary.
Yeah.
I really enjoy some movies that they are still living, feeding, ticking humans. They're just broken.
Yeah. Okay.
Broken.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'd have to agree with everything you said. So moving on. No, I'm just kidding.
Great. Oh, first episode out of the way.
There you go. Yeah. Right. No, to elaborate more on the whole brains thing, I've never really understood that because how do you kill a zombie?
You got to shoot him in the head.
You got to shoot in the head. So, but then how do you turn somebody into a zombie? If we're going by the brains aspect, right? They try to eat your brains. So what are you shooting if they've already had their brains eaten out? What are you shooting?
Yeah. So, loophole. I see what you mean.
Right.
I guess I never looked at it in that perspective, but maybe that's like a subconscious thing of why I never really believed in it.
Right. For me, that's the main reason. It's just like, well, if they don't have a brain because it was eaten, then how? Unless you get bit, but you somehow get away, and that's what turns you into a zombie, and then as a zombie, you want brains. So if you eat a person's brain, do they not turn into a zombie? That's why, like, that particular zombie, quote-unquote zombie, is very convoluted, because, like, it doesn't make sense. Whereas, like you were saying, it's an infection. I get bit, so then I get a flu. I start, like, getting really hot. It spreads throughout my body. And eventually, I just keel over. That makes sense because like that's scientifical. But brains, like that's more mystical.
Yeah. I also think that the concept of zombies that can talk, I do like that aspect because like, who's to say that a zombie doesn't have a memory bank?
Right.
Who's to say that their brains can't still function in that, because again, we have to kill the brain.
True.
I mean, we have to shut the brain down, and to add on to your like eating of the brains thing, never put it into perspective. How come when a body deteriorates, the brain doesn't deteriorate?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we're talking about like zombies as if they're real, I'm wondering if like the reason is because the brain is kind of the only thing that's stimulated. Sure, their muscles and stuff are stimulated because they have to walk around, but really the only thing that's getting stimulated is their brain, and that's the thing that makes them come back to life, and therefore you're able to kill it. So that's maybe, I mean, who knows, 20 years down the road, it's eventually going to deteriorate the brain as well, you would think.
Right. So, but I think that could be a massive plot hole and loophole in the zombie aspect because of the fact that if the brains deteriorate, hide in a bunker for 20 years, they're all going to kill themselves off. Cure for zombie apocalypse, right?
Yeah, I mean, given today's
nobody's
climate,
making it 30 days.
Nobody's making it 30 fucking days.
Making it 30 days. Everybody's like,
I need a haircut.
Yeah.
Who's supposed to cut my hair? My daughter?
My daughter. I'm here for a job interview. You have one hair left.
Any hosers.
Yeah. So no, I do agree with that. That the whole concept of eating a brain just never really.
Yeah.
Now to kill a zombie by decapitation, severing the spine, removing the brain, like that makes sense because that's your motor function. That's it's like, oh, hit a vampire in the heart, shoot a zombie in the brain.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a huge argument that a vampire is a zombie and a zombie is a vampire. No.
Definitely not. Yeah,
definitely
a vampire
not.
is undead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say it's like spiders, okay? There's many kind of types of spiders.
Yes.
So spiders is to undead as zombies is to undead and vampires is unto undead. But you could have a tarantula, you can have a daddy longlegs. Yeah. They're both spiders, but they're undead.
Yeah, right.
So that's the way I look at it because, you can have many, just like a voodoo zombie. A voodoo zombie isn't really a zombie because there was no infection, there was no bite. Instead, they reanimated a corpse and they're, playing with it like a little, puppet, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
So to me, voodoo zombies aren't really zombies. They're just these
reanimated
corpses.
Necromanced corpses. They didn't come back through animation of a bacteria or virus or contagion. Right. They were brought back from the dead. However, for argument's sake, to play devil's advocate on this one, right? The concept of a reanimated corpse through voodoo, yes, it's by a different measure. It's more of like a witchcraft thing. But as long as the zombies are aggressive, bloodthirsty, and the contagion can still spread,
yes,
if it's still spreadable, that would make the voodoo zombie a zombie.
Yeah,
not necessarily. So just for argument's sake, we are going to look at that perspective when going into our movies, comics, stuff like that. We're going to take everything into account. And I really think that this is a very influenced show by you, the fans. If we're not covering a zombie movie or we haven't mentioned a zombie comic or anything to do with zombies, if we haven't touched on it and you know of something we don't know, like we need to watch it, we need to read it, we need to listen to this story, send it to us. We will review everything you send us because we want to give you guys the best detailed information on what we feel a zombie is and, well, how to survive the zombie apocalypse.
So two things we definitely agree on.
Yeah.
Or I think we can definitely agree on. Number one, it's infectious.
Oh, 100% contagious.
So that's one of the key things. So when we're looking at any kind of zombie apocalypse, that's the first thing we're going to look at. Well, is it infectious? Can I pass it on to somebody? Number two, I feel like part of what makes a zombie is the fact that the person dies. They are no longer themselves. Where a vampire, for a good example, the person gets bit, they are still technically themselves,
right?
But they just like blood a lot.
Yeah, they can get a job.
Yeah.
Now there is theory that when a vampire or a human gets bit by a vampire, that they do die. They do die. So like Interview with the Vampire, right? Honestly, one of my favorite movies of all time. He gets bit and he does die, but then he wakes up anew, right?
Right.
So in that aspect, he is a reanimated corpse, but he's not a violent, aggressive. It is still a contagion. A vampire is definitely a contagion that is spread through bites. And I think that...
Just like a werewolf.
Like a werewolf.
Just and so you know.
Silver messes with vampires just like werewolves, but it does mess with zombies. So again, it's kind of like you have werewolves, zombies, and then like the vampire kind of ties the two, right? In a way. But overall, a vampire is still a vampire. They are dead. They are brought back, but they're not aggressive. They're not flesh eating. They just want to drink your blood.
So I guess that would be the third trait that we're always looking for. Do they like to eat flesh? Do they like to eat, meat? Is that their main cause? Because then we could also agree that they're pretty mindless, maybe not mindless in the sense where they can't have thought processes, but mindless in the sense of their only real, drive is, hey, what's my next meal? When can I get it?
Yes, girl. Yes, girl. Yes. Yes. No, 100%. I think that is important. And it when looking into that, we're also going to find, okay, do the zombies only eat human flesh, or are they, again, mindless enough to, if it moves, we eat?
Right.
And that's another perspective in the zombie apocalypse. It's like, why don't zombies in some movies go after animals? Maybe the animal's a lot faster.
True.
I mean, animals are typically faster than humans. Have you ever tried to catch a chicken? It's pretty difficult. You got to corner it.
Right.
And in The Walking Dead, for example, we do see them eat horses and things
squirrels.
like that. Right. But in Dawn of the Dead, they lower a dog into a middle of a crowd and the dog kind of like weaves through it. So what is going to constitute of what they want to eat? You know? Is it like, are we diet hungry?
I think it either has to do with how hungry they are. Like, if anything, it's like, I think maybe they prefer humans, because maybe it's kind of like in World War Z, where it's about like spreading the infection. You know, so their mind process is, I want to spread the infection. Sure, I could eat this dog, but I'm not going to turn the dog into a zombie, so why would I want to eat the dog? But I definitely agree with the fact that, like, eating a horse, eating a squirrel, it just makes sense, because that goes back to the mindless aspect, where they're not really caring where the meal's coming from. They just want the next meal.
Food. Put food in here.
Food
That's
here.
all they want.
Yes,
food.
Definitely.
So with that perspective, you know, then as you're coming out of that realm and those types of zombies, you're going to hit the spectrum of I Am Legend, like zombies, right? Because you have World War Z, which is mass horde, high functioning. Now you have I Am Legend zombies where they can't go out in the sun because it hurts them, but they're violent and they're aggressive, and the contagion does spread. Yeah. It is a spreadable contagion.
I think the I Am Legend / Omega Man vampires are the closest thing to zombies.
You would classify them as a vampire.
Technically, that is what they are. If you go through it, well, I mean, if you look through even just what they describe them like. Okay, the very original their very original. Is it I Am Legend? Let me look real fast.
I think it's Omega Man.
The Last Man on Earth. So the Last Man on Earth, 1964. The very first scene, which I Am Legend and Omega Man are basically remakes or adaptations, rather, of The Last Man on Earth.
As adaptations, yeah.
Yes, adaptations. But the very first scene of the 1964 Last Man on Earth is of him making steaks. So, going by that logic, they're vampires. But if you go to Will Smith's, like, I Am Legend, I don't know if they ever technically call them vampires. No. So if you're only going by their behavior, I could agree. I could see what you mean by, they must be zombies. But it's that sunlight aspect that I think. But who's to say a zombie can't be, afraid of the sun or get hurt by the sun? It really depends on how they got infected, what that infection does to their body.
There's everything. One thing with the I Am Legend zombie vampires is they can die through body shots. You don't have to hit them in the head.
True. I mean, is that important? Because, like, that's another distinction. Like, does it matter whether or not you can kill them with a shot to the face or a shot with a chest?
Well, and that kind of rounds us back to the beginning of this episode where I said, I do stand behind the, flesh rotting zombies, but I also really enjoy the fact that they are still livable, ticking beings with blood. Because when you think about it, they're eating blood, they're drinking blood, they're getting fuel. With a zombie, when they lose all their blood, you dehydrate. You've got no fluids to lubricate your muscles and stuff like that. So, like, you see, like, rotting zombies go from, like, in the very beginning stages, like, super fast, wah, and then over the years, it's it's very slow. So I like the concept that it not only can keep the being alive, it can keep the being, heart pumping, blood flowing, movable. But I think it opens up the door to evolution, zombie evolution.
Evolution, baby.
Right? Yeah, okay, so, like, I can kind of see that shift in the zombie mode. So I think that this season, that ZOMBcast for season 1, you guys are going to love, because we are going to cover all the bases.
Yeah.
We're really going to dive super deep into, how does it start too? Like that's a big thing. It's like, does it start because of a lab breakout? Does it start because of hell got too full of souls? Does it start because, like what is the catalyst that brought the zombie apocalypse on? I think that's important. I think that's important. Yeah.
So, I mean, that is certainly what we think about zombies, what we think constitutes zombies. So the type of movies, video games, and so forth, that can be what you can expect us to cover. Like Kevin said, if you'd like us to cover something, you would like us to, do anything, let us know. We'll look at it, and then maybe we'll have a discussion on whether or not this constitutes as a zombie movie and or film, whatever you send us. Yeah. So keeping that in mind, 2 big questions. First one, what was your first zombie movie?
So my first zombie movie, I, for the life of me, cannot remember the name. And that's the movie that I'm really hoping that going through this adventure,
I'll find
it. And I'm hoping that you guys, the fans here, can help me find this movie. It's in my opinion, it was one of my favorite zombie movies. These survivors are on an island, but it's a pretty populated island with like buildings and stuff. And there's tunnels underground, and there's also alligators. And that's kind of how they like escape the horde. Is they
are they ZOMBcators?
I don't remember too much about that. I mean, I was probably like 8 or 9 when I saw this.
Oh, gotcha. Right.
Coming up in the 90s, we got to see movies way at an early age that we probably shouldn't have.
Right.
So this movie would be like my number one, like first seen zombie movie of all time. Like that's probably the first one I saw. Now, my favorite zombie movie to date.
Technically, I didn't ask you that question, but go on.
Okay, fine. What's your first zombie movie, sir? No, you're right. I was looking.
He's looking ahead at the notes, people.
I was looking at the notes.
Don't skim forward. So my first, I was actually a late bloomer when it comes to zombie movies, because my first zombie movie was actually the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead. So that was actually my first experience, and then I kind of just blossomed out from there. I looked backwards, I looked forwards, but that was kind of the very first like catalyst of what I did. Now, kind of branching off of that, my first zombie experience was actually Resident Evil 2. So that was the first time it's like, okay, this is what a zombie is. Okay, you get bitten, that's bad, and so that was kind of my first introduction into zombies, which made me want to go see Dawn of the Dead. You know what I mean?
So when it comes to like, I didn't even think about the video games. My first introduction to like zombies as a game, as a playable, was Sega Genesis. My Neighbor is a Zombie, or something like that.
Okay. Zombies Ate My Neighbor.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Zombies. Yeah, I think it was Zombies Ate My Neighbor. And like you literally ran around, you could grab like lawnmowers, run them over, and they were just, and it was an over the top, just playthrough. And I think that was my first playable zombie game.
Nice.
Interaction with a zombie. My first zombie comic book, we didn't touch on that. That would be Dawn of the Dead, and you brought that to my eyes. Or not Dawn of the Dead, Left 4 Dead. The Walking Dead. Jesus! Yeah, The Walking Dead. You brought The Walking Dead to me as a graphic novel, and man, I mean, we powerhouse through that thing.
Oh yeah, both of us got super addicted to that before the show came out. So we're those hipsters that like
in the zombie world.
We liked Walking Dead before it was cool.
Yeah, and then they crapped out the freaking second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it later, okay? I promise. I will let you free.
We've got a lot to say.
So then my first zombie comic, I think I agree that would be my first zombie comic. So then now let's go forward in the notes. What is your favorite zombie? Let's say just property of all time. So it could be a game, it could be a comic, what is your favorite property? And then we can break it down after that.
I'm a pretty goofy guy. So I would say like my favorite, it's a massive tie. I'm going to let everybody know now. It's a massive tie, but being put on the spot with one thing that I could pick, just one. Shaun of the Dead.
Good freaking choice. Good choice.
Just because they literally followed the zombie pick all the way through, but they gave you so much good humor out of it. The very end when he's playing video games with the zombie friend, that's why I feel like zombies have a memory. They've got to have something. But yeah, Shaun of the Dead. Oop, I smacked my stuff. Shaun of the Dead is definitely, that'd be my favorite.
Yeah.
Yourself. What about yourself, Nick?
I'd have to agree with Shaun of the Dead. It's a really good choice. But honestly, I think one of my favorite zombie movies of all time and property in general is actually Land of the Dead.
Land of the Dead is so good, man.
I love the idea that after a while, they started remembering who they used to be. Like it wasn't at the beginning. It wasn't at the beginning of the apocalypse. It was after a while, like their brains had time to like calm down, because at first it was like, I need to feed. But then after a while, their brains started to kind of evolve in a certain way. And so that's what I really like. And technically you start getting that in Day of the Dead, but I hadn't seen that at the point. But then Land of the Dead, it was kind of the, it was the magnum opus of, George A. Romero because
high-functioning zombies.
Yeah. So, I mean, that one I really like. Not only that, but it was the first time we saw, like, a zombie movie well after, or at least I guess the first time I had seen a zombie movie well after the infection started. Because almost every zombie movie I had seen up to that point was, hey, this is how it started. This is what's going on at the very beginning. You know what I mean? And so that was the first time I was like, I think it's set 10 or 15 years after the zombie apocalypse. So now society has basically rebuilt itself around this giant tower, and then seeing that fall throughout the movie or whatever was just a really cool experience.
Well, not only that, it's very satisfying because you see who runs the tower, and you're just like, that man is straight garbage. Favorite character? Who's your favorite character from Land of the Dead?
Land of the Dead? Whoever Leguizamo played.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure it was John Leguizamo because that honestly,
it's like that's the only answer. You can't say anything else.
And I can't think of the actor's name, but the burn guy that licks his thumb and then puts reflectivity on his sights.
Oh right, yeah.
That is totally cool, man. He's totally cool. Did you know that Simon Pegg is a zombie in Land of the Dead?
Yes.
Okay. Fun fact for all you fans: Simon Pegg, zombie. Google it, look it up, see where he's at. No, and I stand behind you. That Land of the Dead is on the list of the tie between Shaun of the Dead, Land of the Dead. Nice. Video games come into play with that, like Left 4 Dead.
I mean, favorite of all time, Left 4 Dead. But if we're talking just like more traditional, I guess, zombies, even though I'm kind of screwing myself by saying traditional. But Dying Light, I think, is one of my favorite zombie games of all time.
Fantastic. Dead Island as well hit that zombie node really, really hard. And I mean, you can say a lot between like Dying Light and Dead Island. It's like, hey, it's the same game. You bought the same game with different graphics. That's kind of true.
Dying Light was just so much cooler. There's a little bit more emphasis on like you could craft or which obviously you could do that in Dead Island. But I really like the traversal. Because it's like if you're surviving in a zombie apocalypse, it would make sense to be like really ripped and like really good at parkour because then it's like, well, you can't bite me. I'm way the F up here.
You can't. Well, that and it's like you have a horde coming after you and you have like 2 hard walls and a gated fence. You're gonna have to learn to get out of hard situations.
Yep, definitely.
So using your body to get through your environment, I think, is going to be key in surviving a zombie apocalypse.
Right. Definitely.
I think that and engineering. I think you need to become somewhat of an engineer to survive the zombie apocalypse because you're going to have to know how to rig power, how to make weapons. I mean, literally, an engineer is a must. Which you see heavily in Land of the Dead. You see a lot of those guys are engineers.
Definitely.
And they know how to run like very high powered equipment. So Oh man, I'm getting excited. Getting excited.
Yep, it's all coming very soon to a podcast near you.
And YouTube. And if you want us in your home, invite us over for spaghetti.
Spaghetti, which is really just food's brain.
Yeah, honestly. It's spaghetti. Ooh, that's another good topic I think we should cover this season. And this is just on the fly for you guys. I think we may cover foods that could be zombie-esque. Spaghetti, totally a zombie food.
Spaghetti.
Right? Yeah. Lasagna.
For sure.
Anything with marinara is a zombie food. And that wraps up that episode.
Right. So then, might be a shorter list because there's not a lot of them, but favorite zombie TV show? Yeah, not much to choose from because I feel like we have 4 maybe to choose from.
Well, there's that Daybreakers too. That's on Netflix.
Yeah.
With Matthew Broderick, which like when it started out, I was okay with that show, and then like it took a weird turn, and I wasn't okay with it anymore. So we'll see about that. Honestly, it's a toss up between Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead.
Yeah. For me, for the longest time, it was The Walking Dead. But actually, for me, Black Summer is probably one of my favorite zombies.
I have not seen Black Summer yet.
Well, you will, because that'll be part of the show, for sure.
I'm excited.
But what I love about Black Summer is that most of their episodes are comprised of a single shot.
Yeah.
Ooh, so one camera going through the entire episode, essentially, and they never cut away. Like, I love that.
Wearing a harness with the thing that comes down and a camera right here in front of his face. I guarantee that's what it is.
I don't know, something like. But yeah, most of the time it's one shot, and the way they work with that and the ingenuity they have to do. Like there's a couple of cuts, but like there are so many very long cuts that's like they had to rehearse and they had to be on their fucking game, and it just made every moment where they're like getting emotional even more believable, because it's like they didn't look over to this person, then what's this person's reaction, what's that person's
are we talking like Blair Witch Project emotional, where it's like you're up her nose and you see snot?
No, it's not an actual camera, it's just like it's still a TV show where the camera is omniscient, you know what I mean, but it's one camera.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one camera throughout the entire episode.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this.
It's a good one, and I really like it. Yeah, so that's it. Oh. That's all. That's actually the episode. That a little bit to know about us and what we think about zombies. So now we obviously want to pass a question off to you.
Yes.
At the bottom of the screen, if you're watching us, that's how you get a hold of us. You can go to @TX3 Productions on Twitter, ThreatX3 Productions on YouTube, ThreatX3 on Twitch. We always do some twitching. Or you can look in the description down below for our Discord, and you can go there. But we want to hear from you guys. What's your favorite zombie movie, game, whatever? What's the very first one you ever saw? And what do you personally think constitutes a zombie? Let us know down in the comments down below, or get a hold of us in any way you like to.
Yep.
All right. So next episode, episode 1, will be us discussing what was the very first zombie movie, and we'll be going off the rules that we have established here. So is it infectious? Are they undead? And all these rules that we established this time, we have to figure out, well, what is the first zombie movie? Because it's a little harder when you have to go by those rules. Yep. You think it would be easy because like White Zombie, it's like, oh well, that's obviously about zombies. So
that's why I said as well in the beginning of the episode, I'm setting it as a precursor for all you guys that these rules are subject to change.
Definitely.
Because we may discover something that we did not know or that we didn't conceive. And that's why we're asking for heavy influence. That's why we're asking for you guys to be a part of it, because we want to know how, as a community, we're going to survive it. Because Nick and I, we could plant ourselves in a building, scavenge hunt, and do everything by ourselves, sure. I like the community aspect, and I want to see what you guys think. I think that's important.
But yeah, please come back to us as often as possible. Give us a review, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, whatever you can. It would be a big help for us. Thank you guys so much for listening. I was one of your hosts, Nick.
And I'm the other guy, Kevin.
And make sure you gotta check your corners.
Always give them the double tap.
And don't get bit.